Now, in order to have a database, we need to create a receptacle. That receptacle is referred to as a database file. Now, in Access, to create a database file of your own from scratch without using the wizard, we simply go to File, New, and then we have a choice of two, either a custom web app, which will create you an online database, or a blank desktop database. For the moment, we're going to deal with desktop databases. Custom web apps have their own section. So we want to create a blank desktop database. We choose this option and we tell it where we'd like to store that blank desktop database. Now the default is your document location, so mine's trying to save into C Users Guide Documents, which is fine, but I want to give it a much more sensible name. Now the file extension remains ACCDB for Access Database, but you can give it a sensible file name. I'm going to call My Clients, or we can browse for a location on our computer that we would want to store that database within if we're not happy with the default location. At the moment I'm happy with that default location. I simply need to give that a sensible file name and then create. And Access goes ahead and creates me a blank database, a blank receptacle. It also, to try and be helpful, gives me a table called Table 1, which actually has no fields and no data. So I'm actually going to close that Table 1, little cross here, and you'll see that disappears from the Access Objects list. So this is a blank database. It has no objects. There are no tables, no queries, no forms, no reports, and no macros. And I'm ready to start adding my own object and building up this database. So within the file system, I'll have one file, and that's called myclients.accdb. But within that file, there will be a number, if not a lot, of internal access objects. Those internal access objects are not visible from the file system. The only thing the file system sees is a single file with a .accdb extension. If you were then to look in the folder using Windows Explorer, you would see two files. I've just said there was one. There is one, it's this one, myclients.accdb, but because the file is open, you also see a second file, which is a lock file, and you'll see it has exactly the same name as your database, so my clients, but the extension is LACCDB. The L stands for locked, and the icon has a little padlock on it. This is locking the database from somebody else being able to open, copy, delete, access that database. Once the database is closed, the lock file will disappear. So if I go back to Access and actually close my blank database, and then come back to Windows Explorer, you can see the lock file has gone and I'm just left with the single myclients.accdb. Now you'll notice when you hover that you get the file type, Microsoft Access Database, and the size. So even a blank database with no database objects, no data as such, is still 332 kilobytes in size. And that will only grow as your database gets added to as far as tables, queries, reports, and the addition of your data to your tables. So that's File New, blank desktop database, and then probably the hardest bit is to figure out where to store it on your system and a sensible file name for it.